Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 18th day of January 2024. This year's already going by pretty fast. I'm kind of surprised. Well, today we've got a program on what's going on in Michigan in the courts, and I'm pretty excited about this interview today because we have several people that are going to be coming on talking about their active court cases or the cases that they have going on, and one of them is a common law case. So I'm very interested to see how this goes, and I am going to bring on my guests. We've got Melissa Ward and Scott Aughney by phone. How you guys doing?
Good morning, Donna. From Jackson, we got snow on the ground, fresh snow. So
fresh snow on the ground?
Yeah, we have fresh snow on the ground. We got about 2 inches overnight.
Oh wow, it's really been coming down. I think I lost Melissa a minute. She'll have to rejoin for some reason. Sometimes the nonsense out there and in tech land doesn't always go the way that we want, especially when we're doing it remote broadcasting on the fly. So I'm sure she'll be back on in just a minute here. Oh, here we go. I can see you. See if we can get her computer up and attached. Hey, Melissa, how you doing?
Oh, I got booted off there for a minute.
Yeah, no worries. Sometimes that happens when you're doing like remote broadcasting and you're connecting to different places over the internet. That there's always things that happen. So no worries. So we're talking to a few people this morning, Melissa, Jim, and Beth this morning on their court cases and the active cases that we have going in the state of Michigan having to do with election integrity. And I wanted to, Melissa's the first one up today, and I would like to hear your story because we can look at all these things in the news, but there are real people behind the stories that we hear. And a lot of stories we don't get to hear because they're censoring us so much. So please tell us your story today.
I took on a thing that I didn't realize what I was getting into and how deep it was going to go. We have two people in our township board that has been very, very corrupt. And so we decided that we were going to recall them. And so we started on this thing in January and February of last year. It's been a year now. And so we got everything approved for the recalls to get them out of the system. And there's so much stuff that has gone on through this. And it's just been mind-boggling. It's been attacks against us. So we did file for the petitions. We got those approved. And we went out and worked very, very hard to get the signatures. And we were not told that they had to be turned in immediately after getting the signatures within 60 days. So there was a lot of unanswered or denial or misinterpretation of the recall situation. And so at that time, we decided, and we had it on the news and everything, that May 1st was beginning of our 60-day signatures. So we May 1st, and we got more than enough to submit. And because everybody in the neighborhood has been wanting these people out of there. They even think that the election integrity has something to do with 2022 and then also 2020, because of these people should have never been even elected in. So because they have a record, there's a lot of corruption going behind, especially the township clerk.
Hold on a minute. So you're telling me that they have a record behind them? So they've got criminal convictions and that sort of thing?
Exactly.
Wow.
Okay. So all I had to do with taking a township, basically they voted in 2020 not to have a marijuana place in the town, period.
Melissa, can I ask you to do something? Could you leave the stream and come back in, because the connection for some reason is kind of wonky right now.
Okay, that's the physical one.
Yeah, see if you can leave and come back again. This does happen on occasion when, especially when we're talking about elections and China and all that sort of thing. They will, in fact, I'll find that there's a connection that was good when we first got on will turn bad. And so we just keep going. We just endeavor to persevere, and we'll come back on, and not going to let them silence us. and or through technical manipulation or whatever. We're going to keep going here. So hang on. Hopefully this one will connect a little better. Okay, there you are.
Okay. All right. So basically, we took it on to recall these two people because of what they've done throughout the years and everything.
Go ahead.
So what led to May 1st and June 29th was the 60-day to get the signatures in. So we did, and we got way more than enough. And then the very next day, I called the county clerk to see when we can turn them in, to make sure that we can file and everything and turn them in, and she can process them. And she said, well, she wasn't available that day. And then July 4th was off, and all that week she wasn't busy. So the only time that she could do it and have us come in to file was July 11th. Okay, because she was in court on Monday, July 10th. So I said, okay, so nothing being said about we had to turn them in immediately. And so then we turned them in.
She stalled you. She stalled you out.
Really does. Yes, she did.
You bet she did. She didn't get in there and help you accomplish what you wanted. She stalled you out.
Because we had until August 4th to turn them in. You know, that was the understanding, that we had until August 4th to turn them in. Okay. So we filed them on July 11th, and it took 7 days. And I asked her twice, you know, what would be the reason why any of these signatures would be invalidated? And she said, because of the signature being past 60 days, nothing to do with filing. Okay. None of that at all, period, had anything to do with the answers that she gave us. And, you know, somebody was not registered, or there was somebody that signature was out of the district, out of the area, because it had to be Briley Township, period. And so we're like, okay, we understood that. So we filed, and 300 signatures, and we needed 234 for Phil, the clerk. And then for the trustee, it was similar, you know, and we ended up with way more, 70 more, in fact, you know, actually more than that, 100 more. So 7 days later, she gives us a response that we didn't make it. We didn't have enough signatures. We were 5 short for the clerk and something like 20 some short for the trustee.
Did she tell you why they disqualified them?
Oh, she said because they were turned in past the 60 days. And I'm like, wait a minute. That was not a reason that you said would be invalidated.
Sounds like she had her mind made up that's how she was going to discredit them or disqualify them from the beginning.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we had a meeting with her, and I mean, she ended up crying to the point where I didn't tell you, you know, you could have demanded to turn them in. And I said, well, you said that we had until August 4th. You did not. Well, that's not my position. So basically we're saying, you know, so we took it to court. And the first time when we went in, they denied us from even filing. There was no court case. Mandamus, we took that in whenever it was, October, I think it was, and Montmorency courthouse, because it is actually the county courthouse, but it's seated in Atlanta. Okay, with her being the clerk. So they sent it back to us saying that we have no filing, we have no case. Sent back our money and everything.
Did they give you any reasons or anything like that?
They said that it didn't fit, it wasn't a case, and so they never even let it see.
So they violated the law.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, okay. So then we turned around and said, well, all right, we're going to appeal this, and we're going to take it to Alpena. That we wanted, because first of all, we filed 2 papers. One to have a sealed document, and it was all in an envelope, and it was sealed only for the judge to open up. And the other one to change the venue, to change it to Alpena court for the district court, which would have been, or the circuit court, which would have been 26th Circuit Court. So we didn't want to have it in the seat in Atlanta neither, you know, even though it's the same judge. So apparently either he didn't even see it or he did see it and they just returned it to us. So we said, okay. So then we went to Alpena. Scott and all of us went to Alpena and filed it there. And that's when their lawyer, Reiger, with his combination, which she's over in Traverse City, got involved for her lawyer case. So we don't have basically a lawyer because nobody will touch it. They won't.
Well,
they
don't have the right to do that. They don't have the right to determine whether they even see a case or not. It's kind of shocking.
Right. So now we have a court hearing coming up for the 24th next week. And, you know, we looked on it because we got this big old package, 50 some pages, you know, from the lawyer firm out of Traverse City. And that's the same lawyer firm that actually, yeah, that's another story. But
what's the firm? What's the firm up there?
It's Reiger, you know, that is, yeah, he was the former chair of the Republican Party in Grand Traverse County. I know him from 2020. Yep.
Hang on a second, Scott. I can finally hear your voice. There you go.
Yeah, it's Cummings, McClure, Davis, and Acho, and they're out of Traverse City, but the attorney is a municipal attorney named Hadir Kazim. And
Okay.
Hadir Kazim, as Melissa just stated, is the former chair of the Grand Traverse County Republican Party. But more significant than that, he was the municipal attorney representing Antrim County, the Antrim County clerk in the Antrim County case.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. And he is representing this county clerk in Montmorency County. What we are trying to get clarification on is whether or not he has been hired specifically to represent her in this case, or whether he has been hired as the new county attorney. Because the case, and what the listeners of your show need to understand, we are in court against not only Cheryl Nielsen, the Montmorency County clerk, we're in court against the marijuana lobby. Because
Yes.
a lot of what is going on and why this recall initiative, there's a good portion of this has to do with the marijuana lobby and attempts to put a bunch of marijuana shops in the village of Atlanta and Briley Township in central Montmorency County. And we're trying to find a money trail on this and to try to find some connections. But Hadir Kazim was basically battling Matt DePerno during the Antrim County case. And we're trying to get some background on this law firm. And there's a document Melissa expressed, she shared with you. The original intent was going to be to try to file this in Alpena because we were concerned about the county clerk because she would be the first one to see the case and she would basically control the processing.
Oh yeah, it's like you're going right to the clerk who's being named in the case,
Exactly.
and she's gonna throw it right in the trash and say, "Nah, this is nothing."
Right there. So what did we do? We contacted Alpena, and they suggested, why don't you try filing it in Atlanta in Montmorency County? So that's what we did. And the original filing, and I was a plaintiff, or I am a plaintiff on the case, representing Citizens for Electoral Justice and the interest in election integrity. And what we did is we put the case together and we sealed most of the case, and then we filed a motion to change venue and a motion to seal the filing. We filed that in Montmorency County. Well, Cheryl Nielsen wanted to see what was in the cases, and we were trying to keep it sealed. We had deep concern over the situation. Well, I was actually in the day that Melissa and a gentleman named Mark went in to file. I was in Escanaba at the time on other election cases. They contacted me, and Cheryl Nielsen was trying to reject it because she didn't know what kind of case it was, and she couldn't see the details. Well, I explained to her this is a mandamus. So you can use the mandamus, AW. That's the case type for mandamus. And she, eventually, I convinced her to take the cases. Well, the following week, what Cheryl Nielsen had done was mailed the filings back without completing the processing. She basically rejected the filings into Montmorency County. Okay, fine. What we ended up doing was going to Alpena County and filing it. And we explained that they rejected the filing. We have concerns because of a conflict of interest with her office. We want to file it here. It's in the same circuit court. Alpena accepted our filings, and the Alpena County Clerk's Office, they were exceptional. And the other three county clerk's office in northeastern Lower Peninsula were not. But Alpena was found them to be a very exceptional, and they were very encouraging about us filing pro per, and otherwise known as pro se. And they helped us along, and they didn't give us legal advice. They just helped us with the procedure, which is all we have asked for. We filed the case there. Now, shortly after that, a couple weeks later, we don't know whether the county hired Hadir Kazim for her or whether she did it on her own. But we received a filing, and if you look up, there is a file that I sent you. You can show your viewers. This is public record, and this is the first response we heard from. So,
do you want me to bring the first response up?
Hadir Kazim. And do you have that file?
Yeah, I do. The first response.
If you scroll down.
Hold on a minute, Scott. You're a little quicker than I am on the draw with this stuff. Okay, so scroll down.
Scroll down. If you scroll down, I think to the page 6, the 6th page, it is a court filing, a notice of hearing and motion. Do you have that one up?
Exhibit A.
It is, yes, Exhibit A.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, now, if you take a close examination, remember, we filed the case in Alpena County, okay? This is an attorney, a municipal attorney, okay? If you take a look, there are 3 critical errors that Hadir Kazim did on his initial response to our complaint in court. If you look in the upper left-hand corner where it says State of Michigan, it says the Judicial Circuit, which is the 26th, it says Judicial District, and it says County. Do you see that in the upper left-hand corner?
Yep. Yes.
It says Montmorency.
Look at the county, Montmorency, okay? This is not the original notice of hearing and motion. This is the one that was rejected. Okay, look at if you look below, there's about halfway down. If you look to the far right, there is a stamp that says filed October 20th, 2023, Montmorency Court. Do you see that stamp?
Yes, I do.
Yes. That shows you that this was from our attempt to file in Montmorency County. Okay, so you have 2 pieces of evidence. Thirdly, if you look in the upper right, it says case number. Okay, it says case number 23-5363-AW. Well, guess what? That is not the actual case number. The actual case number filed in Alpena is 23-2409-AW. What this guy did, and we believe there's going to be an attempt to kick me and another plaintiff off the case, okay? But this guy right here, this attorney, municipal attorney, has shown his incompetence by trying to include something in the case that is not legit. It was not legitimately filed in the complaint. This was never filed. This is rejected from the Montmorency County Court.
So he grabbed something out of the air and threw it in here and tried to muck this thing up.
Exactly.
Correct.
What he did, if you look at the report, it is called Report Circuit Court. Okay? Report Circuit Court. Do you have that report, that file up?
I've got first response. I've got the, let me grab another one. I've got this one. Notice
So now that one's Alpena.
Notice that's the notice of hearing. And then I've got this one. Circuit Court for County of Alpena, the RPT.
Yeah.
Got that one up.
If you look down, this is the motion that I filed in response to what he did. And exactly, they tried to muck it. She had no business. Shows her incompetence. This shows her incompetence because she gave him information. She gave him filings that were rejected. They weren't part of any record.
It was interference. It's interference.
Yeah, this shows her incompetence. It goes to our point. And this motion I filed a couple days after receiving his response, his initial response, and this is called a motion to strike. And what we did was filed this motion to strike everything having to do with his response to motion to seal filing, because there is no motion to seal filing. And she gave him this stuff. It had nothing to do with the filing. It was rejected from her. And this goes to our point. It goes to our point that she basically is not following direction. She doesn't understand the laws. And I tell you what, he is trying to get, him as a lawyer is trying to get a couple plaintiffs kicked off this case for standing, including me. And you want to know what? He has shown his own incompetence. He tried to, without taking a look at the filing, the county of filing, the date of filing, to see, because the Alpena case was not filed until the final week of November. But yet he took this one that she gave him that was rejected. And I think it was to confuse the whole thing. I think that's part of it, but I also think it is his incompetence and her incompetence. That stuff had nothing to do with the case.
Well, I think you're being gracious here, quite honestly, because you have to make a decision. Is this incompetence, or is this intentional trying to muck the case up? And it's like if you have one strike of bad behavior, you can say, okay, it's incompetence. If you have two strikes, it's gross incompetence. We're up to 4 right now. And you've got to wonder, following this trail of interfering through including things that shouldn't be there. Why did they do that? That, she knew that she struck it from the case, or that it was rejected. So why did this get passed along? I would want to know that, because if you're not being told when signatures have to be turned in, and she ran the clock out. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I understand this process of running the clock out and not doing things in a timely way to try to make sure that the law is followed. That's it. I'm the poster child for the governor's race for that right there, because that's what the Board of Elections did. So to see this happen here, you've got to wonder that, are they following the law, or are they playing a strategy to keep one of their little deep state buddies out of trouble? There, I said it. Nobody else needs to say it. I'll say it, because somebody's got to. What's that?
Because, I'll tell you what, this whole case has to do with 2 corrupt township officials in Briley Township, which is basically the village of Atlanta in central Montmorency County. And you want to know what? They're very much, this could be part of a stall tactic to draw this out.
You bet.
Draw this out and prevent any recall of these 2 corrupt public officials. Why? Because these public officials in Briley Township, and again, I will pass this back to Melissa. They are tied to the marijuana lobby. So
Yes.
maybe we can have Melissa talk a little further about just the specifics of these corrupt officials in Briley Township.
Well, it goes back actually to 2020 when the people, okay, the people voted to opt out of a marijuana place. So then they voted in, which I think was stolen too, because this clerk that got voted in, a lot of people did not like him because he comes from a corrupt background. Out of California, he has felony records out of California, Florida, Chicago.
Oh man, isn't this like a repeat of what we're seeing all over the place?
Exactly.
Felons from California that are infiltrating our state and Ohio and everywhere else.
And I mean, so what they did was they threw out the township ordinance. Okay, every township has an ordinance, right? Well, the ordinance that they did have, they basically overrided it, and then the county commissioner meetings got it. And I was at that time I was running in 2022 I ran for county commissioner, and I got bullied by the opponent, which was totally. They said that they were Republican. They've never ever showed up for any Republican status whatsoever. But he ran as a Republican, so the primaries I lost by 45. I got 45% of the vote. But during that time, he was bullying me. I had a booth at the fairgrounds, okay, and I even had the police association, state police association, that endorsed me. I had, all kinds of stuff that I knew I should have won, but because I brought up all kinds of stuff that was, and I was new in town. I moved in there in April and ran for county commissioner, but the point of it is, during this time of them running in 2020, it goes back to that. So then come 22, when they wanted to open up the marijuana place illegally, all of a sudden a new ordinance came up, and it's made up by the lawyers out of the marijuana lawyers. Okay. And there's money laundering big time going on over there. So they didn't even have. Huh?
Where did you come from? You said you just moved there recently.
Oh, I was in Traverse City.
Traverse City. Okay.
Yeah, I was in Traverse City I was from out of state, but I moved back to in 2020. I moved back to Michigan, and at that time and everything, I was really involved with Trump campaigning and all that stuff in Traverse City, and I had run-ins with Reiger big time because I worked at the election all day for 22 hours in Traverse City in the absentee ballots. And I saw so much corruption that was going on. So I addressed that with Reiger. Going back to that, Reiger actually was at that time chair. Okay. And I addressed those issues, that it was corrupt. There was this that happened. The machines went down. They didn't verify signatures. There were so many things that happened that day that I saw. Okay. And he said, oh no, there's nothing to do with that. He denied everything. And he called me basically a liar. Yeah.
What
and so now here, I know. And now all of a sudden he's the one that's all these letters and all this package. I have a package over 50 pages, of the response, and they're trying to take everybody out and make it that I'm the only one that's standing in this, has anything, because I'm the only one that filed as a sponsor of the petitions. So they're saying that anybody else on the case doesn't even matter, So bottom line, the marijuana place and the marijuana ordinance that got adopted, and we took it to court. We actually took it to court with the same judge, and the judge denied it. He said, no, the marijuana ordinance replaces the township ordinance. Pretty much. Okay. So they basically said that, and they didn't even have a zoning permit. They didn't even have, I watched all this stuff, and I even exposed it at the meetings, at the boardship meetings. I went to the county commissioner meetings, and then they had the county commissioners involved in a meeting to waive, so that they could do it without having a zoning permit. They tried to sell property that belonged to the township for a marijuana place. And so
you got to really wonder who's getting paid off in this, because somebody, it's like what Granholm has done with the electric vehicle industry. Somebody's getting paid off, and she made like $1.6 million in a stock trade on that. So it's insider trading. And so these people that sit in the seats that are involved in these industries, I would want to know where the money trail goes in this. That'd be the first place I'd look.
Well, the township, the marijuana ordinance puts the clerk, the township clerk, as sole power to open up unlimited amount of establishments. And it's all done by marijuana lawyers. And that's what they're doing in all these different township boards, because they can get through. If they can get through to the township clerk and name him as full power, and of course he's got a record, right? So, and he owns a motel. And I mean, I question all kinds of things during this stuff. So I'm basically a whistleblower. I'm exposing stuff and everything. And so basically they want to shut us down, period. No, we want to keep Phil in there because he's sole power of opening up more places. And yeah,
it's a centralization of power. And not listening to we the people. They're not supposed to be fighting you. They're supposed to be carrying out what you want done and how you want it done, whether they agree or disagree. That's not their job. Their job is not to be peddling an agenda. Their only job is to carry out the wishes of we the people. And if they fail in that, they're failing in their oath of office. And unjust gain. I mean, there's all sorts of things that when they fail in that direction, there's all sorts of criminality that can be, that can be used to label this and or prosecute. So that's crazy. That's just crazy.
It's like we tried to say that, you know what, you disenfranchised us. I mean, you took away from May 1st to May 11th. So those signatures, and guess whose signatures were on there? Us. Our signatures were on there. If we would have known that you expected us to turn it in right away. I mean, I did petitions before. I did, I worked for campaigning for, somebody to put them on the ballot, right? And so through that, I know we had enough time to go through the petitions to make sure that we signed them correctly, make sure that they were dated, make sure that everything was right before we turned them in. So for them not to give us any kind of leadway and tell us you got until August 4th to turn them in, well, we started, and she knew exactly, because the very next day I said, look, we got our signatures. It's been 60 days. Yesterday was our last day. Okay. When can we turn these in? Well, I'm too busy today. Well, I'm too busy next week. We got staff on, and I want to be there. And I'm like, okay. And I'm willing, being nice, I'm willing to work with you to make it, because I know it's going to be a big deal for you to have to go through this, and you have your other job anyways. So I want to make sure that I'm fair.
What's her other job?
She's the county clerk. She's the county clerk.
Right. But you said for her to go through this, and she has another job too.
Well, she's everything to do with the county clerk. She's in the clerk. She's in the courts. Okay. She's in the, yeah.
All right. I was thinking that she had another job there when you said she has another job anwas. She's got her job to do encompasses all of this.
Why did the county clerk, Cheryl Nielsen, why was somebody else in her office was not prepared or qualified to do this? That is malfeasance on the part of the county clerk not to have her staff prepared to do something like this. Because what if something had happened to Cheryl Nielsen? Whether she came into work, got an accident, or she got sick, she had gone, whatever it may be, is she telling us that the rest of her staff is not qualified to handle these other tasks in her absence in the event that something happens to her? This is despicable. This is a problem with a lot of these clerks. They are, number one, they're in over their heads with the technology. We all know that. But secondly, the clerks basically have had a run of things, and far too many of them do whatever they feel like. And it is not by the law, it is whatever they feel like. As a matter of fact, when we get to the final guest on today, we're going to talk about Anne Marie Main, the Presque Isle County clerk, and something that she has done.
Okay. So, well, to your point, Scott,
this whole thing with Cheryl Nielsen.
To your point,
she's tried to paint it off, and I tell you what, when they filed She was very upset. She was crying. I never should have done this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She apologized. Then she turns tail, and then she points the finger at these people in the newspaper and at the Riley Township Board meeting. In other words, she's trying to save her own rear end for her own lack of responsiveness to her position. And again, this goes to oath of office. Most of these people, they don't care about the oath of office. And Cheryl Nielsen is no different. She ran as a Republican, and I tell you what, the marijuana lobby has got a stranglehold on so many communities in this state.
It's a cartel. It's like all of these. It's like all of these special interest groups. They are for a barrier to keep others out, to control the entire industry, to rig the pricing, and to really set itself against the American people. No matter which of these cartels you're talking about, they're all the same. They want to hire people in to do regulations, and then they give them a comfy government job at some point in time, and you can watch them go back and forth like this. This is not part of the American process, nor should it ever have been allowed to really happen this way, because it is absolutely a disgrace to what they've done to to America. A lot of our problems go right back to these cartels, and that's exactly what they are.
Yep, that's exactly.
Well, the other thing is, if you think about this, and we found out that
you're stepping on each other. A second,
Okay,
Scott's talking.
sorry.
I don't think you can hear each other.
Okay, so we found out the marijuana places that are everywhere, they're a cash business, because I know somebody that she wouldn't sign our petition. And in fact, a lot of the people were bullied. They would lose their business or they would lose whatever if they signed the petition to remove these two people. So we had a lot of people that wouldn't sign, okay, because they were afraid. So he's such a bully. But through this, we found out that the marijuana places are cash carry. You cannot open a bank account if you are affiliated with receiving any kind of money. You get paid cash money. They don't check you in or nothing like that. Anybody that works for them, it's all cash carry, cash business. So they don't even have to pay taxes. They don't take out for unemployment. They don't take out for nothing. Okay. So in turn with that, they have to set up, the state came up with, you have to give 10% of your proceeds goes towards a nonprofit organization in your area. Well, guess what we found out? The clerk, okay, that has the sole power to open up an unlimited amount of establishments according to the marijuana thing, right? So then he turns around and is on the board with a pastor. And let me tell you, a lot of the churches around here they wouldn't sign them neither. In fact, I got kicked off a parking lot to try to get signatures. I got kicked off a parking lot when someone wanted to sign, and the pastor came in and said, I'm going to call the police on you. He kicked me off I've been kicked out of
501c3 fraud churches, because that's how I see it too. It's like they're all part of this. These nonprofits.
So then we found out So then we found out the church, one of the churches, the pastor is on the board for a nonprofit organization that's supposedly something to do with domestic or whatever, but they don't do nothing. Okay, so that's being channeled from the marijuana place that they issued to open up without a zoning permit, without all that, right? And then it turned around and it goes back to the pastors and the clerk again, which is money laundering take time.
You bet it is. And they're using it to do that. It's just like with the elections and watching the 501c3s that were stashing ballots and collecting ballots. True the Vote proved this. The 501c3s, this is a problem because people have been sold what they are, which is not true at all. A nonprofit is only not showing a profit on the balance sheet. Doesn't mean they're not for profit. It means that they take it and they distribute it to the people that they want to have in their circle. And it's more or less, you could say that it's like a private club. and set up to enrich their members. And I've seen this over and over and over again. I'm not going to say that every single one of them functions this way, but the gross majority of them work this way. And when you get into them and see exactly how this works, it becomes very shocking. But it's a nonprofit is absolutely one of the biggest misleading statements that anyone could say. I'm going to tell you what, I haven't really come out with this, but I'm going to tell you, I was in a situation in a church where I watched a crime being committed, which led to a 14-year felony, which has not been prosecuted yet, but it's going to be. And the pastor of the church turned the cameras off to hide what was going on because he was involved. And I've got witnesses on this and such. And so I'm going to tell you what, people, you just keep your eyes open on this stuff, because you're absolutely right, Melissa. Right. This is a huge network of people that are constantly. It's like an organism, and organisms have cells. So they'll have cells here, 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 and here. And if you watch what they do, pretty extra sure that this is not the only thing that these people are involved in, because you start peeling back the onion here, and you'll find out how interconnected they truly are. And it's something that has to be investigated right now. And I'm gonna throw this out here, because Pat Colbeck himself said, "Oh, we don't want to say anything to the clerks to spook the clerks because we want them to stay on our side." I'm like, what kind of bullshit is that? If somebody is breaking the law, if somebody is breaking, this doesn't go back to wanting to hide things or soft serving this up to these people. If they're breaking the law and they're manipulating things like turning cases on, they're guilty as hell. And it's like, we don't let these people go by with a pass. You go after them. And I don't care what level they're on, because you know what? A few of these people, if they were served up and having to face what's going on, and you start exposing these people one at a time, they're going to be squealing like a bunch of little pigs in a pen, because they'll out each other. You don't hide this stuff. And anybody that says, "Go ahead, we're not going to talk about this. We don't want to, disenfranchise the clerks. Are you kidding me?" Go after them, and go after them hard, because the one in my township violated 4 election laws by denying my FOIA for the election records. Go after them. I don't give a crap if we piss them all off. Then that's good, because once they start feeling that little bit of a squeeze, it's going to be a little difficult for them. I'm going to bring Beth on with you now, Melissa. I see Beth is back there. Hey, Beth, how you doing?
Hey, Beth, how you doing? Good. Thank you. Hi, Melissa. Nice to see you, ladies.
Feedback on your
okay.
Do you have earbuds? Or do you turn your speaker down? Turn the speaker way down.
Okay. Oops.
See if
I
we can
turned
get
it off now. Okay.
There you go. So I can still hear it. So we're getting feedback there.
Oh.
We're getting feedback there.
Okay. I was trying to test the mic, but okay.
See if we can get it to work.
Do you want me to come back in?
I can.
Do you want me to come back in?
I can.
Okay.
Try that again. Yeah, try coming back in and see if that'll work.
Try coming back in and see if that'll work.
Okay.
Yeah, and so back to these. Well, we're waiting for Beth to come back in. Here, go ahead. These 501c3 churches, watch which ones close during the COVID lockdowns. I'm going to tell you what. Pop Up in Heaven isn't going to be too happy with these people, because it's supposed to be Christians, it's supposed to be us believers that go in without any fear and say, okay, let's keep this thing rolling, and it's not based on money. It's based on the fact that we're here to serve, not to run like a bunch of little squealing cowards in the corner and separate people out and instill fear, instead of why are we afraid of this? Go in. If you got to walk right into hell, you walk right in there like you own the place, and let them know that this stuff is not going to go on. And that goes for all of them. I hope they're listening, because there's some of us out there that will not back down to any threats or coercion whatsoever. Nope.
Yeah, Donna, a lot of these, there's a lot of churches that are buying into government money.
You bet they are.
Correct.
They're buying into government money because it's easy. It is easy, and basically it pads their coffers.
They don't serve God. They serve money. They serve themselves.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And this, I tell you what, I got into it with a pastor in the thumb over this. And the fact that he got involved with something and he's basically taking federal money into his church. And I warned him about that. And what did he do? He turned around and started telling people, don't cooperate with Scott Aughney's with the Locust Sandy investigation.
Yep, because they'll cut the money flow off.
Right.
And anyhow, she back? Is Beth back?
No, not yet. We'll see if she can get back on here. Yeah, that's a one of those things that happens occasionally where you have feedback because it's coming through people's computers back into the feed. So we'll wait till she comes back on, but we can keep talking until she gets back here again. But I'm not shocked at this at all. This is the MO of what's going on out there, and the hiring of felons and people that have court cases against them. Scott, you and I can talk about this for a long time, but the MIGOP under Christina Caramo, that's like the poster child of doing the wrong thing. If you had somebody managing your money, let alone your vote, would you want someone to stack the deck with felons? If you do, I'm out of the discussion with you right there, because either you're stupid or you're complicit with it. There's no middle ground here. So
in the GOP, I had a conversation
Hi there.
with about 11 days ago, and basically I have been made guilty by association, and they do not want to have anything to do with the Locust Standing. And I tell you what, Christina, shame on her. That's what I got to say to her, to Phil O'Halloran, to Dan Hartman. These people call themselves Christians, and they operate like Nazis. If you are not in their circle, they will cancel you out. That's how these people are operating the GOP. They do not believe in free speech. They do not believe in debate. They believe in one thing and one thing only: control. Centralized
power is what it is. Okay, I'm going to bring Beth in, and then I'm going to mute. The microphones of Melissa and myself here, because we are getting some feedback here. And let you talk. How you doing, Beth?
Good. Thank you for having me on and for Scott to invite me. I've taken a really different path than most of the people in the state. And Scott and I had talked a year ago, and I knew he was going through the, law and order. And I get that, but I'm a former Army officer, and I have some experience with the Law of War Manual, and I was involved. I filed a complaint in the 2008 election with the Secretary of State out in California for stealing my vote out there when I elected voted the first time after being overseas for about 6 years. So, I followed it to the 2009, and I understand technology and global telecommunications really well. So I knew it wasn't about the individual ballots. It was, I think it was Montmorency County, Melissa, that got, with every tabulator that was ordered, they got a Hewlett-Packard wireless printer with it. Okay, when you walked into a polling place, they could take down all your cellular information. So then when you cast your ballot, they could flip it automatically. So I got them to stand up. I FOIA'd for the information and proved that we had 5,000 ballots that were mail-in and adjudicated, because that's somebody else gets to determine who you voted for. And those are people in the township that process those ballots, because they were mail-in ballots, and the governor had legislated that we could have absentee voter counting boards. And they got 5 townships got a separate tabulator that they could put in a closed door room, and they could choose who got to tabulate those votes, and they didn't have to have equal Republican and Democrat.
Can I make a comment here a minute? Why are we having to adjudicate ballots? Is this system so screwed up that they can't even produce something that they have to hand, I don't know, say half the ballots to somebody else to adjudicate them in the first place. How come there's even a margin for error that's allowed in the process? The process right at that point is absolutely a failure in whoever is designing or working on the system. There should be no question. There should be absolutely no question. Remember the little ones that had the little levers that you pushed? And that when we were kids, and mom and dad would go in there and push the letter, pull the arm of the handle. There was no question. There was no adjudication. The process was counted. And now we get into this nonsense here, and nobody knows who anybody votes because they're counting in private. And there should be no adjudication for any of this. That's just crazy.
Yeah, Donna.
So we are. Oh, sorry.
And Beth, I'm hoping Beth will introduce us to her case and what happened with going in Cheboygan County. Hers is very compelling from a common law perspective, and I'm going to go back to Beth and let her go ahead and introduce us to what is in her case and how she's gotten here thus far.
Thank you. So to not rehash all the ballots and everything, that was just where I started, which is why they've come at me really hard right now. Because if you realize in the state of Michigan, all of our people are selected and not elected. You have to realize you
Absolutely.
You cannot fight ballot to ballot because there's so many ways the technology, they can destroy any argument you provide. So I go from the premise that they're selected and not elected. So this judge came at me because they've been running out of money. And the only way the courts actually create a profit. So you have to go back to when you're talking about your nonprofit, our governments are corporations. Mm-hmm. Nonprofit corporations have a backdoor to pay off all the governments, to pay off the FBI and all the corporations that help them and donate to them and everything else. And so in a common law, the common law understands that all of our governments are corporations masquerading as our government. That's why they don't care who you voted for. So they've set it up to make sure they can install the people they want.
Absolutely.
So then when you go down the rabbit hole and you try to fight in a court of law, you have all these bar association members are considered foreign agents. I have a presentation I can send to anybody who's interested.
I want it.
Okay. They literally surrender their U.S. citizenship because they are beholden to the British Crown. Bar Association stands for British Accreditation Regency. They are the old governors that back in 1776, before 1776, the Brits were trying to control each colony by establishing their own governor of those colonies and setting them up with their own police force type of thing to enforce their legislation on the people. Nothing has changed. Bar association members surrender their U.S. citizenship because they actually report to a foreign government. Trump, and Biden has not overturned it, has an executive order that if you are a foreign agent, which every lawyer and judge in the state of Michigan has to be a bar association member. It's not a law license under common law at all. They're not registered to practice law. They don't get a license to practice law. They get a bar association membership. And Trump signed Executive Order 13848 that says if you're a foreign agent and you undermine the people's confidence in the election process, all your assets can be seized. Plus, they will lose their U.S. citizenship. This is dynamite. This is the only way to clean up the election process because these bar association people control the power and keep their people in place. So when I did that, then this judge, of course, came at me. I was protecting. They are going hard after people. Because if you watch the movie The Wizard of Oz, it tells you the truth about the straw man, the fake birth certificate. They've raised money. The courts are actually a bank creating bonds when they pull you in, and they threw me in jail for a night. They probably collected $500,000 to $1 million on my one night stay in a bond because they wanted me so bad because of all my election work and political understanding and educating of the people in our county. So they were able to raise enough money to pay their employees because they've been struggling since August. And so I'm hoping to get as many people as possible to watch my court case online at YouTube. It's a week from today at 2 p.m. I'm going to demonstrate with some other common law counsels how we fight this from a sovereign citizen point of view. We have God-given rights. The Constitution is not about law at all. It protects your rights. And every one of our rights in the state of Michigan has been turned into a code and statute that they control and they can write overnight. And Whitmer wrote 3 for the election. What was it? Absentee voter counting board, mail-in ballots, and I'm missing one off the top of my head. She can't legislate. There's no checks and balances. They've been taking our land through Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and here's the other thing that involves election integrity. They've been stealing the titles and deeds to our land to satisfy the debt to the Chinese from the 2008 market collapse. Hillary said in 2009, as Secretary of State, she was going to China to back our debt to the Chinese with our land. Every level of government was bankrupted in the state of Michigan. They had to turn over land to the CCP. Last February, the Michigan legislative floor, they announced that MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, is all CCP money. Now, how does this tie to election integrity, and why will they not let us audit? Because I made it all the way through the entire process in our county with an election integrity subcommittee, and they failed to let us audit anything. It's because they're running a separate set of financial books on that Dominion server. They don't just use that server on election night. Why in Arizona did none of the clerks have passwords to that server? Because they aren't the ones using it. There is somebody inside your county building who works in the IT department, who works for Dominion, and they operate that server, and they keep a separate set of financial books on that server. 24/7, 365, turning over every piece of land that they can to settle their debt. Bribes are on there. Our township board members are getting free healthcare cards from the state of Michigan. No record of it. So they took the bribe, so they can't stand up to the people in their own little dinky township. For us up here, that's dinky. And they won't let the people look at the election stuff because they took the bribe and now they have to toe the line. And they're threatened. So I'd like to see the people, because there's nothing redeemable in the current legal system. They'll let you have a little bit of success and then they'll work to shut you down. So next Thursday, we will be talking about it and presenting the case on how a sovereign standing in their God-given rights takes down the legal fiction that the Bar Association has created to trap you into their legal system and basically steal every right you have. And that's what they did to me.
Really something that's really disturbing to me is that I believe it's something like 98% of the court cases result in a money judgment, and that then the money judgments, I believe they take 18% that goes into their retirement funds for the Justice Department in the state of Michigan. Is that correct?
I'm sure it's something like that. Yes. There's lots of different numbers. When I went into jail, so the entire legal system was created after the Act of 1871, and they took our birth certificates, duplicated it, said we became these legal fictions, and they floated bonds to raise money because in 1871 the U.S. government was bogusly bankrupted with the help of the British after the Civil War, and so this was their way to make money for the new government, was to float your birth certificate as a bond to raise money. And so when they put me in jail the other night, it was to get that money because I had a high bond for everything that I did, a clean record, upstanding citizen, but everybody in the government's number one enemy in the county because I informed the people of all the fraud. So they got enough money to last a few more weeks, probably satisfy some of their debtors and their people that are breathing down their necks, but that's what they do. So then they want me to bring witnesses into court because they raise a bond for anybody else that comes in and is subpoenaed too. And I'm like, nope, I'm not bringing anybody in. We need to bankrupt these courts, actually. But people
So-
need to go and stand in a courtroom with people who are being railroaded by this ridiculous legal system.
I'm going to bring your case up here a minute.
Yeah, I think it's called, hang on a second. It's called, what? I got to
I've got Beth Bridgman, Scott.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, you guys want to talk about this a little bit?
Well, this was the first attempt to bring me into a show cause because I've been in the county building quite a bit defending people, and I have a little group where I tell them, request a trial by jury. That's the only constitutional thing. Force the county to do trial by jury, not plea deals. Plea deals are what our founding fathers ran away from in England. They're called star chambers back in the day. And they extort you and threaten you with so much that you take a lower plea and pay a bunch of money, and they yank your bond and everything else. So he called me into a show cause, and then they called a state trooper from the Attorney General's office who called me, and she said, what? She was supposed to investigate me, and I showed her the show cause, and she goes, what? They can't do that. You're not under bond, because they should have arrested me first, brought charges against me, and then had me come in for a show cause. So he had to backtrack from that show cause and do a paper shuffle and come up with a new way to bring me into court because they brought the young kid that I said, sign your paperwork the common law way. Your offer to contract is not accepted. This is what we need to start doing. We need to call bullshit on all their legal processes. It's all about making money. And every lawyer that sets foot in that county building and takes a case is getting paid. So they're all directly working for the county right now. So then they came up with, I have to go into court with this young kid that I protected. They're saying I kept the Michigan lawyer, the Michigan assigned lawyer, from talking to him before his arraignment. You bet I did. He wasn't arraigned yet. He wasn't assigned a lawyer yet. I suggested he go sign the paperwork the common law way.
Well, and the Constitution does not require you to have a bar attorney. It says counsel. So going back to that, that's what I know about it. And it is a mess. Somebody in the chat said, "What a mess!" It is a mess. It's tragic.
It is.
Donna, I have had my own involvement with what she's dealing with in the Cheboygan County court system.
Okay.
Specifically with the circuit court judge of the 53rd Circuit, a man named Aaron Gauthier. And I was threatened with jail, with arrest by the same judge who's going to be hearing her case next week. I was threatened by the same judge because for practicing law without a license. Well, guess what? There is no law license. Again, as Beth has stated earlier, there is a membership in a private entity. And to be honest with you, the Michigan Bar Association, they own the courts. They own the courts, and they can get away without transparency because they're a private entity. This is the merger of the public and private sector.
Oh, yeah, I love that, the public-private partnerships.
Yeah, the crimes are committed by the public sector. The tools to do the crimes are created by the private sector. In this case, the Michigan Bar Association. And I tell you what, there is no law license. LARA, Michigan Licensing and Regulatory Agency, does not issue law licenses, and the criminal statute is practicing law without a license. But there is no law license, and it needs to be challenged, because what we need in our courts is a free market system. You have a monopoly. If you have the union card with the Michigan Bar Association, then you can walk into court and represent somebody else. You can represent yourself perfectly fine, but what they don't want is for you in a free market capacity representing somebody else. because that would affect the best point. It would start affecting the money. It would affect the money because what it would do, number one, it would improve the quality of legal counsel. Number one, because you'd have competition. But number two, it would force a lot of these municipal attorneys, their fees down. It would force a lot, it would drive a lot of these fees down to where legal counsel could be more affordable for everyone. Melissa, who was the first guest, she talked about this. No attorneys are going to take these election cases. And even if they do, they're going to charge a humongous retainer to do it. What the courts have degenerated into is justice at the highest price.
I agree. We've got a serious problem here, and you can go back to things like the original 13th Amendment, the titles of nobility, and where the oddness of how that just kind of disappeared. But there's evidence of it, and there was a reason why we should not have. How is it that the majority of people, besides being Masons in the seats, I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole right there too. But I'll go ahead and say it, Beth, because I just do that sort of thing. But how many Masons do we have sitting in the seats in these secret organizations? And on top of that, to have the attorneys, they've got a serious advantage here, because first of all, they've got a brotherhood that can pretty well keep everybody else out. And if they know how to write these convoluted laws. It is my opinion that probably 90% of what's on the books right now needs to be wiped away based on violations and of the Constitution, which is the highest law in the land. They should not be there. And we have a real problem, but nullification, in my opinion, is really the only way for this to work. But I don't see, and this goes for all the cartels. I mean, we're talking about the cartels. The cartels are usurpers to the American people. And that's a problem. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead, Beth.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. And in fact, the Masonic churches usually finance people to go to law school. So that's how they control and make sure, especially in our state, that they have to be bar association members, because that means they have to be Masons. And then they're doing the work of all the powerful people. So it's a very dark reality. And the only way that we counteract this is that we stand in our God-given rights. I wrote a whole novel 25 years ago about this time frame, that in a state of no fear, we give away our rights because we become afraid of man, because we don't trust God enough. You have to stand in total no fear to be in your God-given rights and your God-given sovereignty and authority to push back on the evil that is in charge of our governments today. And it's a tall order. And that's what I want. I want people to experience that next Thursday with me in a courtroom, because once they see me with some counsel take that stand, okay, I believe God will prevail on our behalf. We will be with God among us, able to prevail against this. And I'm going to tell you, you need to go look in one of these jail rooms, okay? I knew I couldn't be too affected by it, but it is absolutely criminal what they put people in for a jail cell as well. There is nothing good about that entire system.
Yeah, that's another thing that we can go down. Hang on a minute. I'm multitasking here.
Sure.
Trying to get Jim in.
So Melissa said that her opponent county commissioner is president of the Masons. Not surprised. Yeah.
I'll bring Melissa in. So
Hi.
So I was involved in something. Okay, let's just go there a minute. Okay, since we're just going to go everywhere and call it what it is. I was involved in a purchase up in Alma of a facility up there, and they wanted to turn it into a refugee center. And so I got asked by Christy Hutcherson of Women Fighting for America to go up there and help and help knock things apart. So I went up and I pulled their 990s as a good little detective would, and started looking at where their money went for Bethany Christian Services. And I was kind of shocked at what I found. So we go up there and find out that the chairman that was sitting there was also a Mason, and they were trying to buy it through the Masons in order to make this thing work. Hey, Scott, you back? Yeah, I'm trying to get Jim to come on. I resent him the link here. But so the Masons were involved in that, and it was a little shocking. I'm like going, okay, so we got Mason and Mason, and how the finances were. And so it's like, here's Bethany Christian Services, who's entangled with the Masons up in Alma to pull a deal so that they could take half of the money that they were making was coming through refugee resettlements and such. And I'm sitting there going, somebody better start looking into this. And they want to come out say this stuff, we're Christian. It's like, guys, this is like people that say they're, that they say that they're any label that they put out there. I think you better do a little bit of research on this, because the numbers, if you're looking at them honestly, don't lie. And I called them all out. I called it out for exactly what it is. If you're taking money for moving people across the border, that's human trafficking. And I don't care. I don't care who says it. And look at the churches that are involved in this, that are taking 501c3 money and how much money they're getting, pulling these people across the border for their agencies. Catholic services, Lutheran services, Bethany Christian services, all of them need to be investigated for what's happening there, because I don't think they're going to pass the test. You take money for moving kids around and people, you're human trafficking. I'm sorry. And it's big dollars. It's not small dollars. It's big money that's going into this.
Bethany Christian Services, I investigated their background of their board and the administrators of that organization. Most of them are nothing but a bunch of liberal Marxists. They got ties to Michigan State University, many of them. Many of these alleged Christian nonprofits are not run by people in the church. They're run by socialists. They're run by anti-God socialists. That's who run them and operate them.
Oh, it's surprise. Isn't it in the Bible that God said he's going to sift the church first? I think we're there on the map.
Wholeheartedly. Many of these churches are caving away from biblical principles, and it's become about money and nothing more than money, or social engineering. That's the other thing that they're trying to do. They see themselves as equivalent or higher than God. And this is Bethany Christian Services, to me, is a prime example. They're associated, if I remember right, they're associated with the Lutheran Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. I may be wrong about that, but regardless, Bethany Christian Services is a despicable entity.
Have you seen how much money they get per person?
He made a connection. I tried to reach him.
Oh, okay. So if he can call in, I gave him my phone number. He could call in, Scott, and I can add him. If he just calls that number, I'll just put him on with you. You just be on the same line.
Okay.
See if he'll call in.
Story is very compelling. All three of these stories are compelling. But he is a member of a school board in Onaway, Michigan, in Presque Isle County. And I'm going to try to reach him again. I'm going to drop off and try to reach him one more time. Okay.
Just have him call in. If you both call in, I'll merge the call, and then you can both have your voices on. Okay. No worries. So this is amazing. So I'm going to unmute you again. Beth, go ahead.
This summer, we had 2 Church of Christ buses come up from a little town, Wichita or something down in Texas. Okay. Luxury buses come up, 2 in the same few days. And I teach my people, because I'm a former Army officer, and I'm always looking at situational intelligence and let's keep track of our community. So I followed these buses around, and they parked one night at a motel in town. And I went in and asked the owner what he knew about them, right? and people from downstate that attended this pastor's church. And, oh, his family's up here. The pastor's down in Texas. They got a big donation to bring a bunch of kids, they said, to teach summer Bible school, vacation Bible school up here in Rogers City. Okay, notice Rogers City. I can connect so many dots for you in that area. That is really, okay. So they said all kids were staying at empty houses or houses with people, but they're empty out on Lake Huron.
Hey, Jim, how you doing? I just merged the call. Just we're talking, and I'll bring you in just a minute.
Okay.
Finally, the one lady from downstate who was defending the church, she reached out to me and she said, Beth, I think you're onto something. She said, I checked into it a little bit more. They were bringing people up here, but I've tried to create a rescue team for child trafficking and stuff up here, but we just don't have, everybody's in the legal system that's of age that would do anything. And it's crazy. We're like complete tyrannical Wuhan. We might as well be Wuhan, China up here in Cheboygan, Michigan. It's pretty much that bad.
Well, I got to tell you something else on that issue. When I was up there in Cheboygan, I saw some things that were really disturbing. Okay, and I'm just going to say this as a lifelong Michigander here. I'm going to take Karen's going to be laughing, but she's a Michigani and I'm a Michigander, right? And what I saw up there in Cheboygan were these luxury yachts that you could get on for a whole week at $7,000-8,000 a passenger a week on the Great Lakes. And I'm going to tell you what, Michigan, being part of the Great Lakes here, you got maybe, I don't know, 3 months of, you're not going to freeze your tail off up there on the water, and nobody really wants to be there at that time of the year. We're not talking this is sunny Bahamas here, or or the Caribbean somewhere, which that's another question. But my problem with this is that you can get on these luxury boats, and I sat there and watched them. I'm like, who in their right mind would pay $8,000 for a cruise for 8 days on Lake Michigan? You could charter boats up here all over the place because we don't have the big cruise ships up here or anything like that. That's not what we do up in Michigan. And I sat there and I looked at that and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Not at all. This is nuts. And so I really have some serious questions about some of this stuff. But the stuff I saw in Cheboygan, I was like, wow, this is like a prime place to be able to grab kids, take it across to Canada and dump them off on an island. And the islands around Michigan have been suspect for a very, very, very long time. You can go back to the crimes committed on Fox Island and how that was connected to murders in Detroit. Yes. So don't think that this Epstein thing is like, only down there in the Caribbean. You really have to look at the islands around the state of Michigan, because it's we have an international port. We've got an international border. We got all kinds of islands that there's no way that they know what's going on those islands, and including finding a whole bunch of dead kids that are buried there on a couple of them. Children that were murdered and killed. I'm going to tell you what, Michigan has got a lot of places that we need to look into, because and it seems like you never get to the end of the criminality here. It's incredible. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Jim on and Scott, because they're sitting off here to the side. Go ahead, guys. Welcome, Jim, and introduce yourself, and let's hear your story. Jim, you there? Wow, we've got some serious connectivity issues there.
That's because there's so much importance to this whole thing.
Yeah, they knock it down every time. Every time we're talking about something important, I've literally had my feed completely, kick me off, and says there's no reason for it. I've got a beastly connection. And all of a sudden, boom, it'll be like people would disappear. They don't want to hear. I actually have had 2 people that all of a sudden their computer equipment started going haywire and it fried their computer while they were on with me online. Explain that. It's the craziest thing. But you know what? this is the greatest thing in the whole world. Brandenburg News Network will keep coming back. And not
That's
only
right.
that, we're on tour now. And I think we figured out how to keep this up. Even if they take the internet down, guess what? Brandenburg News Network is going to come back here like the worst nightmare that they have ever. Every time they kick us, it's like, well, this is interesting. Let's see how we're going to get around this one. So keep attacking, because we're finding all kinds of ways to get around this stuff. And they take the internet down. Guess what? Bam! Brandenburg News Network is going to be here like ugly on an ape. It's going to be great. So is Jim there? You there, Jim? Scott, can you go ahead and see if you can reach out to him by text or something?
Yeah, I just sent him a text.
Yeah, tell him to come back on or unmute.
Somebody's muted, I think. Either he's muted or you're mute. Are you muting him from
No.
the other end?
No, I'm not muting him at all. So he's got to have him get on speakerphone and make sure he's unmuted. If he's not, have him leave, call back in, and I'll add him back in. Because we keep going. It's endeavor to persevere. This is like a spy thing, it's like you just let him, you keep going, and that's okay. Then you just like shift a little bit and come back. And
I just have something to say. Out of 9 churches in a small town over here, and it's interesting because when I was campaigning for everybody and before the election, I went to some of the churches and they all turned me down. And even with proposal 2 and 3 and how bad and how chaotic and how confusing and everything, I went to the pastors. I respected them because they were the leaders. And I went to the pastors and said, hey, can I just talk about, because I knew all about proposal 3 and what it stood for and what was behind the scenes and everything. Because I went to the, Lansing when they tried to put it on the ballot and spoke up against it. And so, I'm always doing stuff like that, right? Well, in the meantime, as I'm campaigning out there in 46 different counties, I realize how detrimental it is and how many pastors don't want to stand up to it. So I asked the pastor, and then I got bullied actually by the pastor and also by the clerk's wife that verbally abused me inside the church. And I was like, this is crazy. So apparently we must be on something, because, whenever the chaos goes on, it's like frontline warriors we are, and we're not going to stop though. We're not giving in. We're not. And that's what they want us to do. Don't go to court. Don't continue with this, Melissa. There's been so many people, but the people, and that's why I said, you know what? The voters were disenfranchised when you turned around and voted in somebody that wasn't supposed to be in there. And when we rebuked it and exposed it, you still had a problem. So apparently we're on the right path. Yeah,
I think so. Well, Scott, I'm going to hang up and then see if the two of you can add back in again. We'll see if we can make this work. Okay.
Yeah, hang up and I'll call him. All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye. All right. So this is kind of fun. This is like, let's see how many other ways we can work around this, because we will. So can you read the scripture passages or the reading that you read this morning before we got on? Because I thought this was lovely.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, got into all situations. God, please give Jim and Scott a good connection here. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Yeah, amen. So out of Jesus' calling book, it says, I am leading you along the high road. Sometimes I feel like I'm on the low road, right? Well, we are on the high road, but there are descents as well as ascents. In the distance, you see snow-covered peaks glistening in brilliant sunlight. Your longing to reach those peaks is good, but you must not take shortcuts. Your assignment is to follow me, allowing me to direct your path. Let the heights beckon you onward, but stay close to me. Learn to trust me when things go wrong. Disruptions, in our system to our routine highlight your dependence on me. Trusting acceptance of trials brings blessings that far outweigh them all. Walk hand in hand with me throughout this day. I have lovingly planned every inch of the way. Trust does not falter when the path becomes rocky and steep. Breathe deep draughts of my presence and hold tightly to my hand. Together, we are going to make this.
I love that. our first calling is to walk with God on this earth, and to be able to do that and focus on Him through all things. Because even when things seem like they're the bleakest, that's about the time He steps in and really changes things. Because our Papa up there, Abba, He's not going to handle this for too long. He's going to get sick of it, and all of a sudden all the bad guys are going to have their hands full.
Exactly.
And you don't mock God. That's just what you don't do. So is Jim able to get on, Scott?
No, I tried calling. I don't know what he's having some technical problems. So I think we need to just move on at this point.
We'll get him on at another. Why don't you talk about it, and we'll get him on at another point.
Yeah, I'd love to get all three of them on at the same time, because their story is quite compelling. If you want to pull up the Reiger, Jim Reiger determination letter.
Yep.
And just let me know when you got that up on your screen.
Got it.
Okay. This is the determination letter for Jim Reiger. And there is a lot of deep flaws to, number one, this determination letter. And for the listeners this morning, Jim Reiger is the chair of the Onaway Board of Education. The Onaway School District is primarily in Presque Isle County, but it also goes into Cheboygan County as well. And the board has been run by a bunch of leftists, and for those that do not know the community of Onaway, it is one of the smallest cities by population in the state of Michigan. But it has a very, very liberal, and I should rephrase that. There is a small, very strong liberal faction in there because of the UAW connections into the community. The UAW has a training center in the city of Onaway, and they have probably the best golf course in the state of Michigan, the UAW golf course, right in Cheboygan County, which is in the same school district. So there is a small but very powerful liberal faction up in that area. Hold on one second, Donna.
Wow, I got a story from Cheboygan up there when the UAW guy came to me and talked about breaking kneecaps and broke his own son's leg because of a disagreement. And so I'm sure that story was told to me to try to make me a little bit concerned. And I was like, yeah, not too much. It's like you're a big nothing. And yeah.
Well, continue. So you have a small liberal faction. The school board has been run by leftists for a while. Well, the conservative people, which are still predominant in the community, they voted these people out, and they voted in 4 very good conservative, good law-abiding school board members, and they're trying to get rid of them. Without going into details on the background, they're trying to get rid of them because they no longer hold the majority on the board. And these conservative school board members are trying to get a handle on the school curriculum, because the curriculum is very radical. There is a lot of speculation, and there's a lot of liberal special interest group, which I am sure that the people listening can put 2 and 2 together. And this is a small, isolated community in northern Michigan. But again, the liberal faction is very strong, and they're trying to get rid of these people. Now, what you have here is a determination letter by the County Election Commission. Every county in Michigan, all 83 counties, have what's called a County Election Commission. And they are primarily seated by the probate judge, a probate judge. For many of these counties, it's just one probate judge. And also the county clerk, and typically either the deputy clerk or the treasurer. Okay, these 3 people sit on the board. And what do? They examine ballots when an election approaches. They will examine ballots for language, for accuracy, various things. They will approve.
So like standards is what we're talking here.
They will, in the particular cases, these people, they're the ones that review what's called factualness and the clarity of recall language. But what I want to look at with you and the listeners and viewers today is a paragraph in Jim Reiger's determination letter, because this paragraph is in all four of these determination letters, which include 3 people in Presque Isle County that are being recalled out of Presque Isle County and 1 out of Cheboygan County. And I want you to take a close look at this paragraph, because this paragraph is not rooted in law. It is not rooted in the election officials manual. We don't know where this comes from, but I'm going to read it. And it is right towards the bottom. It begins towards the bottom of the first page, Donna. If you could scroll down, the first word is in quotation mark. The first word of this paragraph is factual. You see the paragraph?
Yep.
Towards the bottom of page 1?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to read this because this paragraph, this tells you, this told me a lot. The fact that we found this in 2 counties tells me that somebody else produced this particular paragraph. I'm going to read it. Factual does not mean truthful. The Election Commission specifically rejects the proposal that it is can serve as a determiner of the truth of the allegation. Indeed, allegations of fact may be true or false, and the Commission does not find that it has the structure, these resources, including procedural authority to investigate, to swear witnesses, subpoena, etc., end parentheses, to determine whether the allegations are true, and also by the modicum of proof, preponderance, clear and convincing beyond a reasonable doubt, end parentheses. The Commission has considered only whether the assertions of the petition are stated clearly and factually. An allegation of fact may be true or false, and the test employed by the Election Commission is whether the allegation states fact so that the responding official may defend. Well, you know what happened in Presque Isle County during the hearing to assess these? The Election Commission, the chair, and both the chairs of the Cheboygan Election Commission and the Presque Isle Election Commission, both of them said, the judges said, we are not here as judges. We are here as member of committees. Fine. Then this paragraph, which is clearly an opinion, should not be in here. You have put this in here unlawfully. I believe the state of Michigan wrote this paragraph. It is not sourced here. It is not sourced in law, in the election officials manual. This is some of the dumbest statements I've ever heard come from a public sector.
Oh, man.
What does that mean? Number one, but I tell you what, I will agree with them. I will agree with them on this part. Number one, it is not necessarily them to determine the truth, but the sponsor of the recall must provide the proof. That is in the rules of evidence. It's in the rules of evidence with regards to appeals. And I tell you what, Donna, this paragraph, this, I believe, is going to be used to get rid of a lot of people that they don't like. And what is significant about this paragraph? What they are saying, what this election commission is saying, is you can put a lie out there. You can put a lie out to the public. And
That's what they're doing.
is it any different than them saying so-and-so has raped somebody, or so-and-so loves boys, or so-and-so, whatever it is? They are saying, this election commission is saying that it is in their culture, it is perfectly legal to put a lie out there. Well, guess what? Remember, Donna, our locus standi investigation, MCL 750.248, that prohibits fraudulent statements from being put out in public. This statement from this election commission is fraudulent, and it is criminally negligible. And
this is crazy, Scott.
There's a flaw in the system. There's a flaw in the system because, unfortunately, the reality is these facts must be verified. And I tell you what, I believe all three of these cases will get thrown, and I think all four are going to get thrown because there were several things in the laws, in the appeals. Now, we don't have time to go specifically through the appeals, but there were several. We have the law on our side. The woman who sponsored these bills lied and didn't take an close examination of the law. She put a bunch of untruthful, unfactual, something cannot be, because in a court of law, Donna, something to be considered factual must be considered truthful. And these judges are saying the opposite on this committee. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life come out from a lawyer. These are people with law degrees, Donna. These are people with law degrees that are perpetuating a culture of lawlessness in our court system and in our election system. This paragraph is despicable. But here's the kicker. A woman in Cheboygan County is the fourth member of this group that they're trying to recall. She has the exact same paragraph. With the exception of one word is different. If you look at the second sentence up towards the top of this paragraph where it says the election commission specifically rejects the proposal that it is to serve as the determiner of the truth of the allegation. Hers says the election commission specifically accepts the proposal that it is to serve as the determiner of the truth of the allegation. Her case is actually different. It's different than the other three. She had some different circumstances. The probate judge and the treasurer, during the hearing, the factual hearing, they both gave legal advice on camera to the sponsor of the recall thing because the recall initiative in Cheboygan had been turned down. It was rejected first. Then what did the woman do? She came and filed against the same woman, but she filed in Presque Isle County. Well, she turns around and drops that one, then goes back and refiles in Cheboygan County. This is the fourth time this woman has had to face potential recall. The fourth time. And I tell you what is happening to all four of these school board members. It is a violation of the 14th Amendment right, due process. Yep. Because they are not getting an opportunity to defend these allegations. Both probate judges would not let them defend these allegations. They would not let them defend it. Secondly, these probate judges, these are men that are overseeing our courts. As a matter of fact, these are men that are overseeing our family court, which oversees children's cases. These two judges, Judge Stone, and I can't remember the guy up in Cheboygan County, I'm trying to remember his name. These two judges are basically saying it's perfectly fine to lie on legal documents. That's what they have said. It's perfectly fine to lie. Factual does not mean truthful. How stupid of a statement is that? And you want to know what's worse? Is they have not sourced it. Where did this come from? And I'm going to FOIA it because I want to know where this came from. Because this has no business being in a determination letter. When this election, these two election commissions in rural northern Michigan are saying it's perfectly fine to lie. That's exactly what they're saying.
I have no words for this. This is crazy. Everything is off the rails. Everything seems just off the rails. This is crazy.
I've gone to a lot of school board meetings, and I actually spoke up at the one.
Hang on, you guys are speaking on stepping on each other. Let's let Melissa go for 1 second.
Okay, so I went to these school board meetings up in Onaway, and I went to and I saw, and I went to the one where they tried to recall petition against Lori. Okay, and I spoke up and I said, and this was the thing. the guy, the election chair of it, okay, he basically asked questions and he wasn't going to vote to have this recall done, but the other two convinced him that even after the fact. So, I mean, it's all set up. It's all, I mean, basically set up to the point, whereas the statement that they made, whether, I mean, it was a statement about, you know, and this is what they approved. The statement saying that she made a comment about, you know, it's hard to get anybody on the teachers to hire anybody. Well, yeah, that's true. But to have it as a recall position, which didn't make sense to me, because I remember when we first did our petition to recall, the language had to be facts. That's what they told us. It had to be a fact. So that's why we did it the way we did it. Because all these other things and everything, yes, they're corrupt. Yes, all that stuff and everything, but we couldn't put it in there because you only have 100 words to say. You know, you can only do it for a certain thing. And so how they end up approving something that is not even just like a sound statement. It's like, okay, it's hard to find good teachers. Yeah, but that to be on a petition, that was crazy. Go ahead.
Scott?
Yeah, Donna, what concerns me is this paragraph is not sourced. Are they going to be, is this coming, I believe this is coming from the state, because you could argue either one of those counties unlawfully wrote part of a determination letter that they did not have the authority to do in the other county. So this had to come, they are exact in two different counties with the exception of one word.
They're colluding in this.
They're colluding. And where is this coming from? I think it's coming from the state of Michigan. And I'm going to FOIA this. I want to know where this paragraph is coming from, because it is not sourced in here. That both these judges said they were not there as judges. They were members of a committee. Fine. You're a member of a commission. Why is this opinion in these determination letters for these four individuals? This is the problem. And you want to know what's happening is the GOP ought to be all over this. The state GOP ought to be monitoring this garbage, and they don't.
All they do is fight with each other. That's what we got going on right now, is they're fighting with each other. They're wasting time. And I'm not seeing anything that's actually moving. Well, we'll see what happens this weekend. But, you know, it's like they got to get past this nonsense with Christina Caramo's administration and get to work. And I'm hoping that they actually get something moving. But here, Beth, you want to speak?
I was just going to say, about 10 days ago, the judge that Gauthier, that's bringing me in on I was a prisoner of war the other night. He said in court about 10 days ago, I must obey the dictates of the Michigan Supreme Court. They make me follow their, yeah. Now, he runs around all the churches and wears his constitutional tie and says he's a constitutional judge and they all support him, right?
Yeah, all
And
these
then
labels.
He had to say that in court. And I wondered if that was a confession, because I know that branches and there's efforts in our white hat military to catch these bad actors. But I didn't know if he's appeasing somebody in the Michigan Supreme Court who appointed him or what. But it sounded like a confession. But then he's still not backing off. What are they covering up? Because us exposing them for their fraud in the court is not as bad as what they could go down for.
Yep, lots of questions.
Donna, she's talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, Beth, I think she's talking about Judge Gauthier, who's the circuit court judge. And Daryl Vesna is the probate judge for Cheboygan County. And Judge Vesna and Judge Stone down in Presque Isle County are the ones who came in and said, we're not here as judges, we're here as members of these commissions. And again, this particular paragraph, this idiotic paragraph is, and I highlighted this, I helped these people write their appeal. We wrote 50 plus pages of appeal for each of the four members. 50 plus pages. quoting several laws, not one law, several laws. Several laws, Michigan court rules, and the Michigan rules of evidence that we quoted. And I tell you what we do know now, the Cheboygan County case, which is Lori Kowalski, who Beth just mentioned, they have hired a law firm out of Bel Air, Michigan, in Antrim County, to go in and handle her case. And I tell you what, these 4 members have a case with. Number one, they have a case of 14th Amendment violation. And we are trying to get some attorneys to possibly bring a lawsuit against both of these counties for violations of 14th Amendment rights on behalf of these 4 individuals. But what is disturbing, why did they bring in a full law firm for an appeal of an election case? Why did they do that? And I tell you what, this is how corrupt, I don't think people realize how corrupt our government is from top to bottom. And I warned, when I ran for chair a year ago, I warned people about the county level and the local level. And I think the people on this call get it.
Oh,
But
we
I
get
think
it.
There's a lot of people that don't understand how corrupt their local governments are.
Well, all you got to do is look at the zoning boards and also look at the township boards that approve the land uses, because this is what, if you look back through time, there's only like 2 things that people ever fought over for real, and it was land and women. Honestly, that was always historically a big fight that everyone always fought over. It was land or women. And now we've got communications that they fight over, and these made up agendas that are nothing more than special interest social engineering to take the nation down. We have been so infiltrated in this period of time of 5th generation warfare. It's not even funny. And dividing us up is what really has taken the cake here, and I'll go back to, this is one of those things that's shocking to people, but why is the government in marriage? They shouldn't be. And it's like, if somebody wants to get married, I'm sorry. This is where the churches love to pound the podium on this. And it's like, okay, well then I guess you failed in your mission to actually bring about things that can actually help people. You fail. If you have to have the government step in and enforce what you believe to be right, you have failed. The government is nothing more than it's supposed to be an administrative, a service contract for all people, not to help push an agenda. I'm sorry, but I think the government needs to be out of it. And a lot of this stuff can be handled by just defund. Start defunding these social engineering constructs and keep your nose out of them. This is a real problem with usurpation of rights. We don't have to agree with each other. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty extra sure that God gave us the ability to have the freedom to make decisions in our lives. And I guess if the churches really gave a crap, they'd actually be developing relationships with people instead of telling people, you're wrong, and then sit back and fold their arms while they watch us fight and tear each other apart. Because that's what they're having. This is Satan working right through them. We do not tear each other apart as individuals. We stand there to help. Jesus sat with prostitutes, tax collectors, the lowest of the low. And all we have is these little echo chambers that sit there and further divide us, and they help no one. All they're trying to do is get the money in, butts in the seat to pay for air conditioning and their stupid little programs that are not working at all. Because if they did work, we wouldn't see this breakdown in society. So they're wholly ineffective. I would fire all of them. If Donna Brandenburg could have a say in this, I'd be like, you're fired, you failed. So why do they get a pass on their 501c3 pity machines where they can sit up there and say, oh, you gotta jump on board with me. We're doing such great work. No, you're not, because if you were, we wouldn't be in this mess. And there's a organization in this area and they allege that they're helping women. And I've talked about this before because I walked in the door and I couldn't believe it. They probably put on a $1.2 million expansion to their nice little shop that they started at. And I walked in there and there's at least 20 offices with the big glass fronts on them, with the big glass doors and the glass. And I'm looking at this going, starting to add this up in my mind at what this cost for this build out and the big open staircase. And there was 2 people in there. And I said, where are all the people for the offices here? Oh, and they started getting nervous. They're working at home. And I'm like, that's interesting. So they took me around and they have this great big upstairs area. And I mean, it's big. And I'm like, starting to really ask some questions. And I'm like, well, what do you use this space for? And she got more nervous and she's like, well, we get together our donors once a year and well, I'm using it next week for a shower for my daughter-in-law. And I'm like, really? And as we went through here further, I said, well, what's the amount of money you guys bring in here? And she's like, well, I can't tell you that. That's got to go through our director. I'm like, okay. So we talked for a while. I bought a couple of scarves. I wanted to continue this dialogue a little bit further. So I bought a couple of scarves and some other things. I'm like, so where does all this stuff come from? And they took me into the craft room where the volunteers are making this stuff. It was very few people overseas, which was their main talking point, that they were trying to help out of poverty. And I was kind of shocked at this. And I'm like, well, how many women are you actually helping? The answer was 10. And there was no verification on this whatsoever. This is the crap, the total bullshit these 501c3s are feeding us. And it's to create their own little palaces that they can sit in and do favors for their friends and all of this stuff. And the end game is not getting to where they say it is. So everybody can get together in their little donor clubs and they can talk about how great they are and all this great work that they're doing. There's no accountability to any of this. And it's something that we have to talk. We are so far off the rails with this. I got to tell you guys, as a Christian, I've been praying for God to bring the hammer down on this society. And I'm telling you what, I hope and pray to God that this thing gets flatlined. I really do. If it does, it's going to come from God Almighty. And we're going to have to go through a little bit of hurt for a while. But you know what? We're going to get together with people that actually want to see this nation run as it's supposed to, instead of keeping the graft and the corruption moving in the direction that we have, from the court systems, the school systems, the 501c3s, the local government, all the way, the whole thing. And, look at what happened in healthcare. To keep their jobs. You know what? Sometimes you just got to jump and let God catch you. And then we're there. We are there. And it's okay. I mean, if we jump and we say this is not working right, and we just say, you know what, God, we're willing to jump. And we know that it may be a little rough, but that's okay. We're going to do this together as true Americans, not political pundits and the fake stream media and all this stuff. You know what? I'm pretty extra sure the only one this is going to really hurt is the people that are in bed with these people in this global crime syndicate that we have going on with their little snaky tentacles and everything. And we have to have the guts to follow God and do this the way it needs to be done. Beth, I'm going to give you a chance to talk here. Go ahead.
Well, that's it. We have some really nice people. I've always said to my group 4 years ago, I created this group, Cheboygan Freedom Fighters. I said, you have to ignore the governor when she extends the lockdown. Okay. Anything that violates the Constitution, we need to make sure we don't comply. We're the ones who start following their codes and statutes, which are not law at all. They're policy. So I said, freedom is an action word. Unless you overcome your fear of the public authorities, you cannot be free of them. So that's what I'm trying to get across next week, because in 2009, they hit me with a handheld microwave weapon when I called the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department and asked him if him and his 18,000 deputies were going to keep their oath to defend the Constitution because Obama was not eligible to be president. So
Correct.
I've staked
The
my life
Kenyan.
on the line.
Yeah.
Okay. What's that?
The Kenyan.
And so you have to know what you know, and know God has your back. And until everybody tries to do that, we can't be free of it, because their fear is creating more and more government because they're afraid, and they don't. It all comes back to, how do you devolve the government? You have to love your neighbor as yourself, so we can get rid of the corruption. If we gave without thought of return, we would have no problem with abundance. Those two things,
Bingo.
but people sit in
Bingo.
church.
You hit it right there.
What's that?
Right.
Yeah. If we did those two things and we learned how to apply it, people like a lot of knowledge and information, but they never apply it to their lives. So that's what I'm trying to do next Thursday. Is I want everybody to come in there. We're going to pray before, the case opens up. And I want them to experience fearlessness as we stare down the fraud, and,
Right.
show them that this guy has really no authority. He is not following God's laws. He's not following the Constitution. He's not following common law. He is a political thug.
Well said. And with that said, does anybody else have any last words here? And then we're going to say a prayer and we're going to go on to our days.
No, I want to thank the participation. I want of Beth and Melissa. And I'm sorry we couldn't get Jim on. I hope we can get him on in the future. But I think why I talked to you, Donna, about having these people on is there's a lot more to elections and a lot more in these courts that we are not focusing on. And I think we need to examine every aspect of what the government is operating. And the courts are abjectively corrupt. What is going on in these cases in the Northeast Lower Peninsula, is, in my personal opinion, these sort of things should not, these are the things that happened in the Weimar Republic under the rise of Hitler. It happened under Stalin. It happened under Lenin. It happened under Mao Zedong. It happened under Pol Pot. These are not things that should be happening in our society. Just like that paragraph that I talked about with the Onaway School Board. What they're, by promoting the idea that you can put lies out there, and it's perfectly fine, okay? It's perfectly fine to put the lies out there. They are basically promoting absolute chaos, not justice in our court, but chaos. That is what they're promoting. I want to thank you, Donna, for having these guests from Northeast Lower Peninsula share their story.
Yeah, you know what? You're welcome. And I just want to say thank you guys for being the brave fighters that you are. And, you're welcome to call me. You've all got my phone number now. And, anytime you want to come on, we can do a live broadcast. We can do whatever we want. Just got to work on the connectivity sometimes out in the north there, we don't have quite the connectivity and such. But anytime you want to come on, I'm here to help give you a voice, because I like people that have been censored. Anybody that's been censored or that's been attacked or that has been truly stomped on by this global crime syndicate of Marxists. They're communists, and they're murderers and they're communists. Anybody that's been stepped on by these people, they won't stop at anything. I mean, look at what they've done. They've already killed. And they have murdered and killed like you can't believe. When you start looking at the human trafficking going on in this state, make no mistake, this is in every single community across this state. And this is not just a one-off. It's a systematic or systemic cancer of this nation, which they kill without conscience. They stomp on rights without conscience. They are godless. They are a godless scourge upon this earth. And anybody that wants to talk about what's happened to them, I want you to have a voice, and I'll do whatever it takes to continue to give you a voice. So anytime you want to come on Monday, give me a call. I'll put you on Monday again, because I really find your story very interesting, very compelling, very real. There's facts to back it up. These are real people with real situations. And anybody out there listening to this, if you have a situation and you need to get your voice heard, contact me. I'm real easy to find. You can find me on my Telegram channel at Brandenburg4MI. And I answer every single text or post there. It's me that's answering them. There's a few frauds that come on there that once in a while they scam me, but I try to get them off there as quick as possible. I do not DM unless I say, hey, I'm going to DM you on the open channel. I don't just randomly DM people. Those are all frauds, right? And so you can talk to me there. Just make a post and say, hey, Donna, go to my DM. I'll post a phone number there or whatever, and just call me. I mean, it's pretty easy. This is the way this is supposed to work. We're to stand together, So with that said, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Scott, for Melissa, for Beth, for Jim, and all the people across this nation who are gutsy enough to follow you, to believe in you, that they even know you, to stand and are willing to do whatever it takes to work for your interests here, for your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. We are so thankful that you've chosen each and every one of us to be here at this time. We know you are good all the time. And no matter what we see that looks bleak or the hard fights ahead of us, you're just teaching us to be a little stronger. And we accept that, and we thank you for that. We don't want to be weak cowards. We want to be your family who are not afraid, who step forward to fight for anyone's rights, or whoever is being oppressed, who's being hurt, who's being harmed by this global crime syndicate of criminals, of Satanists, of whatever they are, but they sure aren't following you. And we ask that you would bless them, that you would confuse all of their plans to do evil in this world, and that you would bless them. Your word says to bless them. We ask you to bless every single one of them, to open their hearts, to follow you, to have them turn, because some of the best fighters that we've ever had are the ones that have turned their back on Satan himself, on evil, and walk forward with a braveness of saying that I will fight under any and all circumstances, the powers of darkness and Satan himself. We thank you so very much for bringing us together. We ask for your favor on each and every person who is standing up to fight, on Melissa, on Beth, on Jim, and on Scott. We ask for your favor to abundantly rest upon them, and on everything that they do, that you would open doors, that you would make the path straight ahead of them, that you would show them what to do, and that you would clear out anything that's attacking them so that they can walk forward in your power, in your strength. You've been a great friend to us. We ask that we're gonna try to be a great friend to you. Want to be a friend to you, and we just want you to know that we love you. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, we pray, amen.
So can I say real quick, if you have a segment on, because the state gives so much money to open up a marijuana place, 35 to 55.
Why are they funding this? Somebody explain this.
That's what they're doing. Now we have because I opened up a Celebrate Recovery in my area, and it's not too many people coming, but then they turn around and give to the county money to have these boxes with these drugs in case somebody overdoses, and that's all done by the state. So it's an oxymoron. I mean, I'm going to give you money to open up a place and have all these drugs going through, cash money, but at the same time, I'm going to open up for recovery programs.
Create a problem, and then this is what they do. They create the problem, and then they create the solution, and it's all about money and killing people, the destruction of human beings. Straight up, they're Satanists. So this should not be. I mean, why are they giving money to these sorts of things when a normal business, you got to fight your way out of it? I mean, that's how a normal person would do it, is figure it out, work hard, and just battle all dragons as you're on your quest to fulfill your own dreams. You don't go take from the state in that regard. I mean, there's times where there's hurt that's been put upon people. It's like I've listened to a lot of the nonsense, or the people that are fighting against some of the social programs that helped through the pandemic. Well, some of that was designed to destroy local business and or independent businesses. That's what that was about. There was fraud that was going on during it, no question. But some of it was very helpful. but there's no accountability to any of it. So that's where the problem is. But normal people find their solutions and their way through this without just making a whole bunch of money off of it. So it's a quite a thing. But that shouldn't be the state should not be giving money to these private public partnerships. All that is a state-owned controlled business. It's exactly what the CCP has done. Same playbook. Done it in Venezuela too, and we know where that ends. So with that said, everybody go to please BrandenburgForGovernor.com. I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded to any election. I will not concede to liars, cheats, and thieves. In the 2020 and the 2022 election, we have to write both of them. They were both fraudulent. They were racked with fraud, failure, and absolute idiocy on anyone involved in this. Criminality in on the highest level, and treason. And that's exactly what we're dealing with there. So with that said, to everybody out here, remember, you're not alone. When it seems the bleakest, that's when God's going to step in, and he's going to let these people know exactly who his children are, that he is never going to abandon. He will never abandon nor forsake you. Put your trust in God. Nice little poem. Put your trust in God. He will make a way. He will stand right beside you each and every day. He'll put money in your pocket and food on your table. Telling you what I know. God is able. Have a great day. Starts here and here and here. So be your best self. That's the way God created you. You're amazing. And I'll see you back tomorrow. We're doing more election investigation with Todd Buffington and another man named, I think it's Harry Hauer. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm going to have to ask for pronunciation. But we're going to come back and keep beating the drum beat for this election fraud, because if we don't have free and fair elections, we don't have a country. That's where the open borders came from and all this other nonsense. So number one issue right here. So have a great day, guys. And we'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.